All right. Let's change it a little bit. I'm sure everybody's heard of this story. Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I cannot believe if nobody has heard of this. Everybody knows it's by Dr. Seuss. I don't even need to see that, but How the Grinch Stole Christmas from Dr. Seuss. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Oh, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be perhaps that his head was too tight. It could be his... Oh, let me replace it. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, the harder his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a Grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy hanging a mistletoe wreath. And there hanging stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow he knew. All those Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'll rush for their toys. Then all the noise. If there's one thing I hate, all the noise. Then the Who's, young and old, will sit down to a feast. And they'll feast, and they'll feast, and they'll feast. They'll feast on Who pudding, rare Who roast beast. Oh, roast beast is one thing I can't stand in the least. And then they'll do something I hate most of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, will stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'll stand hand in hand, and those Who's will start singing. Fa-hoo, foray, fa-hoo, foray, welcome Christmas, come this way. Fa-hoo, foray, da-hoo, doray, welcome Christmas Day. And they'll sing, and they'll sing, and they'll sing. I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. Send me your YouTube. I definitely will, Matt. Yes. Hi, Ryan. How you doing, man? I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat. I'll make a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. Oh, he chuckled and glugged. What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. I'll I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer was scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the Grinch? Ha! The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some black thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded his bags with some old empty sacks and the ramshackle sleigh, and he whistled for Max. I can't even whistle. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up!" And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. And the windows were dark, quiet in there. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care, when he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy claused as he climbed to the bong at the bags in his fists. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got only once for a minute or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who's stockings hung all in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slugged with a smile most unpleasant. Around the whole room he took every present. Bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, popcorns, pickles, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slugged to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. As the Grinch grabbed the tree as he started to shove, he heard the small sound like the coo of a dove. Then he turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was no more than 2. She stared at the Grinch and simply said, Santa Claus, why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so thick, he thought up a lie and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head and he got her a drink and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who was in bed with her cup, he crept to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. And the one speck of food he left in the house was a crumb, even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other whose houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other whose mouses. dawn, all the who's still in bed, all the who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled. He packed it up with their presents, their ribbons, their wrappings, their tags, their timples, their trimmings and trappings. Anyone remember Jim Carrey? Yes, the Jim Carrey version is awesome, Matt. Yes, I love the Jim Carrey version. Listen, the Jim Carrey, I'm sorry, all the other versions were good, but the Jim Carrey version was awesome. 3,000 feet up the Mount Crumpet, he rode with the load to the tip-top to dump it. All those who's will wake up. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's the noise, the Grinch I simply must hear. He paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But this sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded glad. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook what he saw with a shocking surprise. Every who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. Ba-hoo, dore, ba-hoo, dore, welcome Christmas, come this way. Ba-hoo, bore, ba-hoo, bore, welcome Christmas, Christmas Day. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without bags. It came without packages, boxes, or tags. He puzzled and puzzled till the puzzle of a sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, he thinks, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with the load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys, he brought back their food, he brought back everything they wanted to use. He brought back Christmas once again. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. All right, I got one more Christmas book.